After a while in Minecraft, you might find yourself a little bit bored, and have a lot of resources. For those of you who have a lot of TNT to play with, this video might interest you. We're going to be trapping some generated structures in vanilla, so that anyone that comes across them and tries to loot them, ends up having a bad day. Disclaimer, you should only trap structures that your friends will find, and only the friends who won't hate you forever because they will die and lose everything. Dom here is going to be my guinea pig in today's video. He's going to try and loot our first structure, which is the igloo. We're gonna go and watch and see what happens. So he's gone ahead and looked around, but he's got no choice but to go ahead and look in the dungeon, which of course will trigger today's trap, which leads him to fall directly to his death. This is such a perfect trap because everything is concealed and it looks so innocent. So let's go into how we make it. The beauty of this trap is that it's really easy to make. It might take you a long time to set up, but it's so worth it, especially as all of the items survive the fall. You can just collect what they had and be on your merry way. You need to make sure you delete everything under the carpet in the perfect size that it lays in. You need to go pretty much all the way down to the dungeon underneath the igloo and keep going. Once you reach the bottom of the laboratory, this will not be enough to kill them from fall damage alone. It means that you need to keep going. As you can see, this hole just isn't deep enough. How far down you go is up to you, it's a bit of a patience game, but if you know that your friends or the other people on the server are going around with diamond boots and stuff, and even wearing enchantments, you need to consider that in how deep you go. And you may also want to consider that people with fast reactions carry a bucket of water in case of these falls. However, this should pretty much be foolproof. So once you've reached the bottom, or you've gone deep enough to make sure that they will die from the fall damage, we need to go back up to the top and make a small platform here so that we can create the mechanism that triggers the fall in the first place. And I wonder how many of you already know the system that we use. We're going to need dirt or grass, or something that we can put the flowers on top of. We also need any flower that is 2 blocks tall, and you can pretty much find these everywhere. We're also going to need a bunch of gravel and the carpet that we originally had on top. So we need to place the grass blocks 3 blocks down from the carpets with the flowers on top. Once we've placed all of the flowers, we then create a layer of gravel on top of that. And it's very, very important not to change it for now. Do not disturb the gravel. We then go ahead and place the carpet back on top. I've obviously placed a blue carpet there, that's not normally there. We need to go back down into our dirt platform, and I actually made a mistake while recording this but rectified it, and I wonder if you'll see. I started removing the flowers so that the gravels would float, but then realised when I fixed that hole it's going to trigger the trap as it updates the block. So I just put the flowers back, repaired the hole, and then started removing the flowers from the bottom block. And once we've done that, we can then remove the grass and everything else so that it opens up the hole entirely and the gravel is remaining stationary. And it's very, very important that you don't touch any of the blocks around the gravel or it will trigger and you'll have to do all of that all over again. And that's it. The trap is set and ready for someone coming along that wants to loot it. Obviously you would replace that blue carpet with the white, as I said. I just used that to mark out where the entrance would be and the block that they would go for, and they'd instantly fall to their death, assuming that they're not wearing tons of armor. And it's a good laugh. You could leave a sign there to tell people who did the trap and get a good giggle out of the whole thing. There's obviously some pros and some cons. It takes a long time to make, but the pros are you get the stuff afterwards. It's something that people aren't expecting typically. And speaking of the unexpected, Domrell's back again, and he thinks he's gonna harvest this lovely villager farm and take all of those potatoes. Little does he know that this particular farm was the wrong choice, because after a short delay, it all explodes outwards and kills him, and causes a lot of damage at the same time. This one comes under the category of evil. Who on earth traps a villager farm? The answer's you. You do. Because we're evil. So how do we go about making this evil trap? Well, the first thing is finding a very innocent looking village that hasn't already been ransacked. You need, in particular, to find the farm section. One on the outskirts will be great because that might be where people come to first and start raiding. We need to go underneath this farm, particularly on the side where it's got more grass than anything else. You need to go underneath and make as much space as possible without creating too much of a hole. So I've cleared out a lot of space without going into the water in between the two bits of farm. And you'll see that I'm already placing hoppers in a very specific way. They all lead to the same place at one end of the farm, particularly the one that's most underground and not near the path. You need to place a lot of hoppers, meaning that this trap is incredibly expensive even without the TNT. You're going to need a lot of hoppers and a lot of minecarts. At the end, we need a comparator, and for now, we'll put a redstone lamp because we need to make sure that it works without the TNT in case we set it off accidentally. On top of the hoppers, we need to make sure that all of them are covered by a minecart with a hopper in them. This might take a little bit of time because it does get a bit fiddly. You don't need one minecart over every single hopper, you just need to make sure that they are roughly covering all of them. Now the reason we have the hoppers in the minecarts is that it allows items to drop through the farm into the block below. The item then sifts through the hoppers all the way to the end, creating a redstone signal that triggers the TNT, and that's why we have that delay. And the delay is very important because it leads them to believe that everything is as normal, and more importantly, it makes them jump out of their skin because it really is quite the surprise. I made myself jump because I didn't realize quite how long that delay was. So, once we've got all of these placed, we're actually almost ready. We need to, of course, set the TNT, but let's test if it works. We need to just throw in whatever we want, any random item, we'll get them back just over every single block to make sure that they fall in. Now, it is a little bit overkill to make sure that all of them do this, but consistency is kind of important and you really want to make sure that you get this right. So, as we can tell, it's sent the redstone signal and all of those items have accumulated at the end. So now we can safely say, place the TNT. Now make sure you take those items out of that hopper, otherwise you're going to blow yourself up. And trust me, I blew myself up quite a few times when preparing these videos. How much TNT you place is completely dependent on how much you have. If you've got a sulfur farm or a gunpowder farm, then it's happy days, you can go ahead and trap away. If you're limited, you might want to be a little more careful on where you place them because you want to make sure that you get them. Nothing's worse than going through all this preparation just to find out that they survived, but if they jump out their skin, mission accomplished as well. So I'm just going to finish covering it up with grass, and you might be rumbled because of the grass that has been made into a pathway. You need to fix this before you place the TNT in the minecarts because they do tend to get in the way. I'm going to world edit this for convenience, but that's something to consider if you're adjacent to a pathway. Right, we are now good to go. It's time to wait for someone to come along, which in this case of course was Dom Rao, and this time you'll notice that the potatoes fall under the ground instead of actually going into his inventory, and then after the small delay, which is all the items going through the hoppers, boom, we have our dead Dom Rao. So next up we've got the desert temple, which of course has a bunch of great loot in it. Dom Rao is going to go inside and loot it as every normal player would, but instead of mining that very obvious block in the middle, he's going to beat the system and dig round the side and make his way down and destroy the pressure plate so that he doesn't... oh, wait. Oh no, he's triggered it anyway. That's right, this trap triggers the TNT, well, even more TNT than usual, by simply destroying the pressure plate. So how do we make this? Well, we need to find ourselves a desert temple and deactivate the trap ourselves. We're going to recycle everything underneath there, so we need to make sure that we don't ruin what's here and kill ourselves in the process. So once you're down here, you need to dig a hole exactly where all this stuff is and pick up all of the TNT and resources. Once you've done that, you then need to place a grass block underneath and make another little hole under it. You need to place a wooden pressure plate, particularly wooden, underneath that grass block, and then put a rose bush or any 2-block high plant that will have the same trick that we had with the igloo one. We need to make sure we've got an exit plan because we will be filling this space with TNT in just a second. You can do so first or afterwards, but please, please, please make sure that you are careful. It's so easy to accidentally trigger this whole thing and set it off. So fill it up with TNT and place the sand on top of the plant along with the pressure plate. Then go and fill the hole in with sandstone block. There is obviously a bit of a texture difference, but we'll come to that later. We then remove the plant and the dirt and finish placing the TNT, making sure that there's the hole in the middle because the whole way this works is that the item falls on the wooden pressure plate. So once we've done that, we leave and we need to go back in and repair any damage that we've made to our building. We need to replace it in exactly the way it was found, meaning adding the blue block that was there originally, and we've got our complete trap, meaning someone will come along, check and see if all the chests are there or if it's already been looted. All good. You might notice the discrepancy in the textures, but we're going to assume that they won't. That's the only giveaway on this trap, and I wish there was some other way around it. So most people would come down, loot the chests, and destroy that, ready to harvest the TNT and make sure that they don't trigger it. But of course, the reverse trap sends off all that TNT anyway, and it's a certified death with the amount of TNT that we put in there. Using the amount that was there originally, you might get a far less impressive explosion, but the trap works nonetheless, and it's just a really dirty trick, to be honest. And Domrao emerges to test our fourth and final trap of the video. This one is designed in the jungle temple to make sure that it explodes no matter how you tackle the puzzle to get the chest. Whether you decide you're going to flip the lever, it explodes. Or if you're just going to mine straight in from the top and drop down and get it, it explodes. Or if you're going to choose to mine in from the side in order to just dip in and get the chest, it will still explode. So how do we go about trapping this structure? Well, normally you do the levers in this sequence, the left one, then the far right, the left again, and the far right once again in that order, and it opens up the top to drop in and get whatever's in the chest. However, most people don't bother doing this because they just know they can break straight through the walls with absolutely no consequences. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Break in and just remove everything that's inside this very, very small space. It's only a 3x3x3 area, so we are going to have to make a little more space to work with. So we need to break into the only wall that isn't used. And on this particular case there was a bit of water, which is okay, we can still manage it. We just have to go outside and do a quick bit of terraining with some grass to cover up our little trap here. It should go completely unnoticed if the terrain looks natural enough. But for the most part, people will have a complete jungle to work with, and you shouldn't have this problem, but if you do have to cover it up, absolutely no worries. On the inside, we've now got some space to work with. Before we cover up this hole and start working on it, please make sure that all the levers are in the off position or you're accidentally going to set off the TNT before it's ready. So, cover up this hole now that we're all set, and we'll start preparing the trap. We need to cover as many entrances as possible so that we can maximize the potential for this to be triggered. We need 2 redstone torches on the side, followed by some repeaters, and another block and some redstone torches afterwards so that those are not activated. This is where we're going to place the TNT on this side, so that if those torches are broken, it will activate the ones on the other side of the dirt, leading to the TNT being activated. Now, I recommend that you use redstone lamps to find out where you can't place the TNT. So if I placed the TNT there, it would have exploded and the whole thing would have been ruined. Likewise, if I placed it anywhere around those redstone torches, it also would have been triggered. So it's very important to make sure you test where you can and cannot place it, and if you're worried about it, make sure you place something else there just in case, like dirt, something that will be easily exploded when the TNT goes off. Even places like that will be triggered, so it's just important to make sure you know where you can and cannot place the TNT. So that covers up anyone trying to enter in through the side. People that drop directly down, we're going to have to set up a pressure plate so that they trigger it when they fall through. Of course, none of this guarantees a definite trigger on the trap. This one isn't quite as foolproof as some of the other designs, but we're making it as likely as possible that it will go off if people are very quick to try and just break in and loot the temple, as I assume people might be. So we've got our pressure plate set up, and we've got TNT to place absolutely everywhere else. You'll see that I dug into the side so that the lever is connected at a right angle on the right hand side of our trap. That's what happens when you play around with the levers. It just triggers the TNT directly rather than any of the redstone torches. Once we've done that, we then cover it up to make it look as natural as possible, and everything is good to go. Whether you're going to trigger it via the lever, drop straight down, or break-ins through the side wall, it all should go off. Like I said, this one isn't quite as foolproof, however, they should all go off if someone is in a rush to go and loot the temple. Right, so that's it, all 4 traps, and I hope that some of these have been new to you. I hope that some of these have inspired more trap ideas, and for those of you that love doing this, make sure that you keep it clean, fun, guys. There's no need to ruin someone's game just for the hell of it. This is intended just to prank your friends and to have a good time, so don't do it against anyone that you know is going to be upset by doing it. It's all good, light-hearted fun. So, good luck trapping and grabbing all of the stuff from your friends. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.